If you've played Age of Reforging, the Freelands, before version 1.2, I need you to open the game right now because this update has changed a lot. And when I say a lot, I truly mean it. This isn't the kind of update that fixes 2 bugs and calls it a performance improvement. No, this one has actual content, changes you'll feel within the first 2 hours of gameplay, and some additions that honestly I didn't expect to see so soon. I dove deep into version 1.2 to separate what really matters from the minor details, and what I found surprised me quite a bit. So if you're still on the fence about returning to the game, or even if it's worth buying now, this video will give you the answer you need. Let's get into it. If you've ever felt that trading in RPGs is too boring, buy low here, sell high there, end of story. The V1.2a beta update of Age of Reforging. The Freelands just completely changed that game. The new dynamic economy system means that prices in cities are no longer fixed. They actually fluctuate, responding to local market conditions. This means that what's worth a fortune today might be devalued tomorrow, depending on what's happening in that region. What really excited me here is that each city now has its own specialty goods. One city might be known for producing high-quality iron, while another has a massive demand for medicinal herbs. This detail transforms the game map into something much more alive, because you start to see each location not just as a quest marker, but as a business opportunity, or a financial hazard if you're not paying attention. And that's where the strategic factor comes in, which I find genuinely thrilling. Profiting in this system isn't about memorizing a fixed trade route. You need to read the market, understand each city's demand, calculate travel time, and still hope that conditions don't change before you get there. It's almost like playing an economy mini-game within the main game, and that kind of depth is exactly what separates a good RPG from a great one. For those who enjoy that open-world RPG experience where every decision carries real weight, this update is a serious reason to return to the game. The feeling of arriving at a city with the right product at the right time and leaving with deep pockets without the game handing it to you on a silver platter is satisfying in a way few systems can replicate. Age of Reforging is clearly betting on making you think before you act, and I respect that a lot. The update just added 3 new origins to the game, and honestly, this is the type of addition that completely changes how you'll approach your next run. They are Gladiator, Merchant, and Beastmaster. And before you think it's just cosmetic, each of these origins carries a real starting advantage designed to shape your playstyle from the very first minute. The Gladiator is the obvious choice for those who like to solve everything through direct combat. You start with a clear physical confrontation edge, which means the early hours of the game, which are usually the most brutal, become a bit more forgiving. It's that feeling of entering the world already knowing you can take a punch, and that completely changes your stance when exploring high-risk areas. Meanwhile, the Merchant was tailor-made for those who enjoyed the new dynamic economy system that arrived in this same update. Starting with commercial advantages in this context is almost a perfect combination because you enter the game ready to read the market and profit before the competition even notices the opportunity. It's an origin that rewards those who think before they act, and I find this kind of synergy between systems very well executed. The Beastmaster, to me, is the most intriguing of the 3. Having a starting advantage linked to wild creatures opens up a range of possibilities that goes far beyond conventional combat. Depending on how this system is expanded in future updates, this origin could become one of the most versatile in the game. If you like exploring the most unique aspects of a game, this is the ideal starting point for your next adventure in the Freelands. One thing is having commercial advantages from the start of the game. A completely different thing is having an entire career dedicated to trade, with quests, progression, and an entire organization behind it. The update did exactly that by adding the Merchant career and the Merchant guild questline. And I have to say, this elevates the game to another level of depth. Joining the guild isn't just an honorary title. You start from the bottom like anyone else trying to prove their worth in a competitive market, and you rise through the ranks as you demonstrate you understand the business. This progression structure within a commercial organization is something many RPGs promise but rarely deliver with real substance. Here, it feels like every step in your career has a clear purpose, and that's exactly what keeps you invested. What catches my attention is how this addition speaks directly to the dynamic economy system that also arrived in this update. It now makes perfect sense to start the game as a merchant, join the guild, and use the market fluctuations of each city as a strategic tool to advance through the hierarchy. These two systems together create a layer of trade-focused gameplay that rivals the combat content. And that's rare to see in an open-world RPG. For those who always wanted to play an RPG, where the sword isn't the only answer to everything, Age of Reforging is building something genuinely special. The idea of following a trade-focused career path with its own missions and an organization with its own internal politics is the kind of content that creates unique stories for every player. Two players can finish the game with completely different experiences, and that is the sign of very well thought out design. The addition of 2 new legendary items linked to the merchant career seems to me like one of those changes that is small on paper, but can give much more identity to this path within Age of Reforging, the Freelands. When a game creates specific legendary items for a lifestyle and not just for combat, it sends the message that this type of progression actually matters. And I like that a lot because it makes the player feel that being a trader here isn't an alternate mode, but a legitimate way to build your journey. The most interesting part is that these items don't just appear out of thin air. They appear exactly at a time when the game is strengthening the entire merchant fantasy with a dynamic economy, its own guild, and a structured career. So these legendaries help close that package in a much more convincing way. In practice, they give that sense of special reward that many people look for when they decide to invest time in a progression less obvious than simply winning everything with a sword. Personally, I think this type of item is very important because it values build and roleplay choices. There are many RPGs that even let you follow a more economic or strategic path, but deep down, the best rewards are almost always tied to combat. Here, at least in intention, there seems to be a real effort to give prestige to the player who wants to get rich, negotiate well, and rise in the world using market intelligence. This makes the merchant career much more attractive because now it can also have its own high-level trophies. In the end, these 2 new legendary items might be exactly what was missing for many people to look at the merchant career with new eyes. It's not just about making money, but about having clear symbols of power and status within this route. I like it when the game rewards different styles with the same care because it greatly increases the desire to test new runs. And honestly, if the Freelance continues to give this level of attention to those who prefer trade over brute combat, this could become one of the most interesting parts of the entire game. Of all the additions in the update, the Beastmaster class is probably the one that has made me most curious since the moment I heard about it. It's not every day an RPG gives you the option to capture wild animals and turn them into true companions. And when this is done with care, the experience of playing with an animal partner by your side completely changes how you view every encounter in the open world. The capture system itself is already something that deserves attention. The idea of going out into the world and recruiting wild creatures isn't just a collection mechanic. Each animal you capture represents a strategic choice, because different creatures will fit better in different situations. This means you start looking at the game's bestiary with different eyes, not as enemies to defeat, but as potential allies that can change the course of a difficult battle. What really elevates this class is the set of skills focused on joint combat. It's not enough to have an animal by your side as decoration. The class was designed so that you and your creature function as a team, with skills that complement each other and create tactical opportunities that a solo character simply wouldn't have. This kind of cooperative design between player and companion is hard to balance well, and the fact that there is a skill set dedicated to it shows that the developers took this fantasy seriously. For me, the Beastmaster represents exactly the type of class that makes an RPG memorable. It's original, requires a different playstyle, and creates unique stories in every run, because no player will capture the same animals in the same order. If you're the type who likes to explore everything most unique a game has to offer before anything else, this is the class to start your next adventure in the Freelands without a second thought. Age of Reforging. The Freelands just gained a new medium-sized wilderness area in the update, and I have to say the timing of this edition is perfect. With the Beastmaster class arriving in this same update, having a new biome to explore isn't just extra content thrown on the map. It's a direct invitation for you to test everything this class has to offer in an environment that was clearly designed for this type of adventure. What interests me here goes beyond the size of the area. Medium-sized might sound modest, but in open-world RPGs, the best moments almost never happen in the largest regions, but rather in well-constructed spaces that give you a reason to explore every corner. And that's exactly where the multiple side quests come in. They are what transform a beautiful setting into a place with its own personality, with stories happening in parallel while you traverse the area at your own pace. Well-made side quests are one of the things I value most in an RPG, because they reveal the identity of a place in a way the main quest never can. Each side quest in this new area will likely introduce characters, conflicts, and secrets that don't exist anywhere else in the game. This creates that sense of discovery that makes you explore unnecessary detours, just because the world feels alive enough to hold real surprises. For those following the evolution of the Freelands, this area is further proof that the game is expanding organically, connecting new systems with new content instead of simply piling up disconnected features. A new region with its own quests inserted into an update that brought a class focused on nature and wild creatures doesn't seem like a coincidence. It feels like intention, and this kind of coherence in design is what differentiates a game that is growing well from one that is just getting bigger. There is something about villages built in unusual locations that immediately makes me want to explore every detail before doing any quests. The V1.2a beta update of Age of Reforging. The Freelands added a new village setting inside a canyon, and just from the description, you can already feel that this place will have a completely different personality from anything the game has presented so far. Canyons carry a specific energy. They are places that isolate, protect, and hide things that the rest of the world shouldn't easily find. What fascinates me about this type of setting is the logic behind the existence of such a place. Why did an entire community decide to build their lives inside a canyon? What are they running from, or what are they protecting? This type of question is what makes a village memorable, and if the developers took good advantage of the local geography to tell a story through architecture and environment, this could be one of the most striking settings in the game so far. Visually, a canyon also offers incredible design opportunities. Layered rock walls, narrow paths, buildings embedded in the cliffs, suspension bridges connecting opposite sides. These elements create a natural verticality that completely changes how you navigate the space and how encounters happen. It's the kind of environment that makes the game feel much larger than it actually is, because each level of the canyon can hide something completely different. For me, adding new settings with a strong geographical identity is one of the most efficient ways to expand an open-world RPG. It doesn't need to be huge to be impactful. It needs to have character. And a village inside a canyon, by definition, already starts with plenty of character. If you're the type who stops the whole game just to look at the scenery and absorb the atmosphere of a new place, this setting was made for you. I've left the Steam link in the video description. If you're interested, take advantage of the fact that the game is currently 30% off.